Okay, so we're going to try this again with the microphone, hopefully working. Um, this is the basic tour of the syllabus. I am using the one for my asynchronous class since my synchronous classes actually get to hear me do this the first day of class. But I will also be posting this to my synchronous classes so that you have it as a review so that you know what's going on. But I am going to approach it as if no one has heard this before. So this is as thorough as I think I can be. I'm going to try not to be too long either. The first thing I'm going to point out is that there are many different parts to the syllabus. It's a long document, and the reason for that is because a syllabus is effectively a contract. It's a contract between you and me, the student and the teacher, but it's also a contract between you, me, the history department, the School of Liberal Arts, the University of Georgia itself, or I'm sorry, Georgia Gwinnett itself, but also the USG system, the University System of Georgia, which is why, if you'll notice, each section has a different identifier. Like this is the instructor information section, which is introducing me and a big part of what I'm requiring of you through the next few parts. So I'm going to hit this part the most because this is effectively what you most want to know and what I most need for you to know in order for me to grade you and give you the grade that you are working hopefully to get. So my name is Farah Driver. I do not have an office on campus. I am entirely online. In fact, I live in South Carolina. I don't even live in Georgia. I do come down to campus with some regularity. In fact, I'll be there later this week. But for the most part, if you want to see me, we have to actually set up a physical appointment. It has to work with some point in time in which I'm there. So, um, getting in touch with me is effectively through my GGC email. I'm not allowed to actually open any email that comes from anywhere other than through the GGC system. So if you need to get in touch with me, that is pretty much the only way to do that. Um, Everything that you need, particularly for the asynchronous class, is going to be available to you through our My Courses page. I'm going to stipulate here that I often use other names for it because I've been at GGC since 2011, and in 2011 it had a different name. Um, it was D2L, or Desire to Learn, and then about 6 years ago, D2L started calling it Brightspace, and now we're calling it My Courses. So any of those things I use interchangeably. It basically means it's our web page and it's our interface to communicate with each other and for me to present this class to you. Obviously, because this is asynchronous, you have to be available online. You have to have access online. And a lot of people, at least once a semester, I get somebody who has been using their computer and something happens to their computer. It either stops working or they drop it, or any of the numerous problems that come up when one's trying to operate with a computer. And I'll get an email that they've sent through their phone basically saying, my computer's not working, I can't submit stuff. Okay, right here early on in the syllabus, um, I'm pointing out to you that that doesn't work because there are computer labs all over campus. Um, I know for a fact that there are computer labs in building A, there are computer labs in building B. Building C and W have computers in some of the classrooms, and if there's not a class in a classroom with computers, you can use that. Also, though, there's the library, which has the vast majority of the bottom floor dedicated to computers. So you have access to computers. It might be inconvenient, but the school has them and they are there to be used. That was part of the design in 2005 when the school opened, was that it was going to incorporate current technology in its degrees and with a big focus. So yeah, it's got computers in every building. You do not have the excuse of not being able to access a computer because they're there. With that in mind, you need to check your email regularly. If something happens and I update or change something in the course, I'm going to let you know. If you are in a synchronous class and I'm not going to be able to make class, I'll let you know via email. But if you're asynchronous, that's not really going to be so much the problem as just something changing with the course or there being some other kind of emergency that you may need to know about. So you want to check your email regularly. You want to check your My Courses regularly. Everything that you're going to be giving to me is going to go through My Courses. Discussions will be submitted in the discussion tab under activities, assignments, the critical thinking exercises, all the project points for the final project are going to be done through the assignments tab under activities. The exam is going to be done under the quizzes tab under activities. So everything you're doing is going to be through the My Courses page. I am going to point out right now, and just to make sure we're all clear on this, everything you submit to me is double checked through Turnitin. So for discussions, I'm going to copy and paste not only your top post, but all of your peer comments into a submission window for discussions, and I'm going to check them all through that. Everything that's in the assignment blog is going straight into um, Turnitin before it even comes to me, and your final exam also will be doing that as well. So at any point in time, there is absolutely zero tolerance for plagiarism or for the use of AI. I will come to that shortly in this section from me, between you and me, and then repeatedly with you and me and the School of Liberal Arts and you and me and the college itself and the USG system. So be aware that Turnitin is used for everything. All right, core impacts. This is effectively why you're taking this course. The big reason you're taking it is because this course, like all history courses, is going to teach you critical thinking. And that's what it is. The core impacts are, while we have it here between you and me, it's actually also between you, me, the School of Liberal Arts, the History Department, and USG, because this is all a big revision in the USG system itself. It's to make sure that all courses that are taught in certain disciplines are not standardized, but that they meet all the same curriculum points so that they are transferable from institution to institution and that they're getting you to the same learning outcomes. For our purposes, our big orienting question in the Civ courses particularly is, how do I understand human experiences and connections? And that is not only why you're taking the course and the framing of the course, but it's also going towards what I'm requiring of you in the course. It's why the final project is dedicated to tying the present to the past by picking something that's an issue today and connecting it to how it has developed historically, how it's impacted other civilizations and societies, and our history prior to today. Um, it's also helping you to effectively analyze the complexity of human behavior, how historical, economic, political, social, and geographic relationships develop, persist, and or change. And that's a big function of what we're doing with this course. By the end of this, you should be able to do and what we refer to as career-ready competencies. These are things that are going to help you get jobs in the future. These things you're supposed to be learning in this course that will impact your ability to function in terms of employment later. Intercultural competence, perspective taking, and persuasion. And these are all functions of what you'll be learning how to recognize, analyze, and understand through this course. All right, so again, since I am using Civ 2 as our foundation for this because it's asynchronous, these are the specs for that asynchronous course, but again, the same concepts are all applying to all of the history courses I teach, certainly to the Civ 1 as well. Everything we do in this course, again, is going to be online. So you are going to definitely need to have Respondus Lockdown Browser and Respondus Monitor installed for the final exam. I encourage you to do this now rather than later. I actually have under the quizzes tab a sample Respondus function so that you can go into it and make sure that your Respondus is working. That's the only thing it's designed for. There's no grade given to it or anything like that. But you need to make sure that's operative, and you need to make sure that it is operative prior to the end of classes. In fact, I think I have it set to turn off April the 15th. So be sure you do that. Go ahead and download this stuff, make sure it works. Every semester I have some student, usually more than one in every class, who does something like wait until right before they're taking the exam to download the browser and the monitor, and then they discover that it's not working with their technology. And then it's too late. So don't do that. Do it now. Make sure that while you have time to get in touch with the GGC help desk and or the Respondus help desk, that you have time to figure out why it's not working. Do that now. Don't wait, because there's nothing I can do if you get to the last day of exams and you don't have this, because I'm not taking your exam without these things. So that's 15% you don't need to lose. All right. So yes, you must have that. If you need to get in touch with me, those of you who are in my online classes, obviously you're going to see me in class during our class periods. If you are, though, in an asynchronous class, like right now with this particular course, if you don't have a designated time to see me and you want to meet with me, email me. If you need to see me face to face, we will set up a conferencing session. If you want to talk to me about something, this is the way to do it. If you are in class with me, be sure you're coming to class. Do not wait until the end of the semester and you have not come to class to ask me questions, because if you've come to class, you've had an opportunity there, and it's probable that I've actually already answered that question in some capacity. This past semester, in fact, at least once a year, I'm not going to say every semester, but at least once a year, I have someone who doesn't come to class and then wants to get together with me. And I'm like, okay, why? I talked about this in class the other day. You have access to that class because it was recorded, and you're not coming to class. So why should I give you preferential treatment? Especially since I have anywhere from 100 to 150 students. If you, though, are in an asynchronous class and you want to meet with me, that's a different story, because you don't have that one-on-one experience. So email me, we'll set up a time, we will get together, and we will do what we can do. All right, course description. Depending on which course you're taking, it's going to be either prehistory to 1500, or with this class, 1500 to the present. There you go, pretty straightforward. Course resources. All right, no matter which course you are in, whether it is Civ 1, Civ 2, Western Civ, US 1, US 2, I only require you to have one textbook. One. Count them. One. It's one finger up in the air, one textbook. You have a lot of choices, and these are all your choices. If you are in one of the Civ classes, if you go to the GGC bookstore, you're going to find that The Ways of the World by Strayer and Nelson is the one they automatically order. They're going to give you a digital code for it once you pay to rent it. If that's what they're going to do, please do not ask me questions about it, because I don't recommend that book. I recommend the one with sources, which the one they get is the brief edition, which does not have sources. And also, I don't have any control over that book. What I recommend to you then is, if you want to buy a book, buy one with sources and buy one of these three. Either Ways of the World with Sources, Volume 1 or 2, depending on which class you're in. Since this is for the asynchronous course, it's Volume 2. Sorry, I didn't put it there. Because Volume 2 is the second half from 1500 to the present. Volume 1 is always prehistory to 1500. You can do Ways of the World, edited by Strayer and Nelson. You can do Patterns of World History, published by Oxford. You can do Traditions and Encounters, edited by Bentley. Any one of those three is fine, as long as it has sources in it. If you go to an edition earlier than the one that's currently there, you can buy it for like $5 to $10. You can also probably find it in a library, and I'm fine with that. I'm great with that. You don't have to pay $50 to rent a book. You don't have to pay $70 to buy a new book. You can go to an earlier edition that you can get used for $5 to $10. Just make sure that's got sources in it. If you want to be even cheaper, you can go right here to this website, where Cordas and some other historians have put together World History, Volume 1 or 2, either one, for this class, since this is asynchronous, Volume 2. It is available at OpenStax. You can go right there and you are welcome to use it. It's a really good book. The only problem with it is that it doesn't have primary sources in it. So if So when we come to a point where you have to have primary sources, you're going to have to go looking somewhere like the Internet History Source Books, which I have tagged right here for you. And you can go there to find primary sources. Again, you only need one of these history books, and I don't care which one you get. People always ask me, which one do you think is best? Okay, that's not a fair question. I like them all. I model the design of the course after Ways of the World. If you were looking at the chapters in Ways of the World, you would notice that each of the weeks of the course is set up with that same topic or that same part of the world. Ways of the World is a good book. They do a lot culturally. Every chapter crosses all the civilizations. Patterns of World History is a wonderful book. It's got a lot of information in it. It's got a lot of detail in it. It's got great sources in it. I usually prefer to, in the classroom, teach that book because I think it's got some really great information in it. Traditions and Encounters is a good book. Interestingly, I prefer Ways of the World to Traditions and Encounters, even though Bentley, the guy who writes it, is someone, he was the editor for the um, Oxford Handbook of World History, which I use in design of my courses, and I love it. It's probably my favorite curricula book. So any of those three are really good, but I also really like Cordas. And if you're in Civ 1, I also really like Burger. Asking me which one to use is complicated. I like them all. I like them all differently. So um, any of them, whichever one fits in your budget would be the one to use. All of your secondary readings, Frankopan, Harari, Diamond if you're in Civ 1, I've provided those for you. I have already linked those in every week. So they're already there for you. You don't have to buy those books. You have to read that information because it's required in each week, whichever one is in each week is one required, but they're already there. And I have also copied them. So I know they have page numbers in them. So you have to put the page number in the citation. For anything that you're using that has a page number, you must put the page number in the citation. And I'll talk about that when I get to APA citation in just a minute. You also need a current written newsfeed. If you have an Apple product, you have a newsfeed already built into it. And it's going to include a lot of written stuff, written sources, newspapers, news magazines, etc. I understand Android does the same thing. So that's what you want. But it has to be written. I don't want video. I don't want you distracted by moving images behind you. I want you to have something where they have to actually prove where they're getting their factual information. So you need a news feed. It's got to be about things that are going on in the world today, because when we get to week 4 and you're telling me what you want to do your final project on, you need to have 2 articles from that news feed that you can cite in that final project proposal. And then you will also be using them for your final project. All right, anything else that you need, I'm going to provide for you. Our course goals and objectives, again, this kind of goes to the core impacts, also to what later we're going to refer to as the IEE things, down when we get to the history department things. But the big thing is the use of critical thinking skills to critique and analyze historical data, to develop writing and oral skills. Definitely a lot of writing it's going to go along in this course. You've got written assignments every week and then your big assignments. To understand historical events over time and their connection to the present, again, that's going to be reflected very much in that final project and also in some of the later discussions in CTEs. Developing an understanding of diverse cultural perspectives across history. Again, this is a world history class, whether it's Civ 1 or Civ 2, we're talking about everywhere in the world. And to cultivate an attitude of positive civic engagement, ethical responsibility from a local and global perspective. So those are all things that we're working for and all part of how I have structured the assignments in the course and how you'll be graded on them. Speaking of which, your grading scale is the standard one. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, 60 to 69 is a D. I prefer not to think about anything below that because I know you all want to do well and at least make that C. So your grading categories. You have 13 discussions. The first 2 are required. This is how I take attendance. It is through class participation in the discussion. So if you are in an asynchronous course, it is mandatory. Actually, if you're in a synchronous course, it's mandatory that you turn in discussions 1 and 2 and that you do it by the deadlines. I encourage you to do as many as you can. I'm going to take your top 6 grades on those, but it normally takes 3 to 4 weeks for people to really begin to make good grades on those, to begin to understand what I'm looking for, to process the information, to address all the points in the discussion questions and all of those things. And to get those peer comments going. Those peer comments, you're required to do 3 of them. They need to be substantive, which means they need to bring in new information, not stuff that you put in your own top post, not stuff that you put in the post to which you're responding, or that's in the stuff to which you're responding. It's to be new stuff that's going to demonstrate to me that you have a broader understanding of the information than just what you put in your own top post. So they need to be substantive. They need to have historical examples. They need to really flesh out the material. I'm going to respond to every discussion that I can. And answering me counts as both a peer comment, and it counts because the things I'm going to ask you are going to go towards things that I think you need more information on. So they're going to help you with your overall grade as well. So you need 3 peer comments on 3 different days between Thursday, when you post your top post, and Monday. If you're in a synchronous class, it's Monday afternoon. If you're in an asynchronous class, it's Monday at midnight. 3 different ones on 3 different days, which means you've got Thursday through Monday. If you work on the weekends and you can't get to it, then you still got Thursday, Friday, and Monday to get those 3 peer comments in on 3 different days. You're going to be graded on 4 out of 9 critical thinking exercises, or CTEs, and the one in week 3 is mandatory. You have to do it. It is not an option. In week 3, you don't have to do the discussion. You don't have to do both the discussion and the CTE. You can just focus on the CTE if you want, but you have to do the CTE in week 3. In the weeks after that, you may do both, or you may choose to do one or the other, but you need to keep up with what you're doing so that you have, by the end of the course, at least 4 CTEs and 6 discussions. They are not interchangeable. If you do all 13 discussions and you do no CTEs, then you're going to lose 20 points because or 20% of your grade because you've done no CTEs. You need to do 6, a minimum 6 discussions, minimum 4 CTEs. I encourage you to do more of both. Your final project is going to be 20% of your final grade. The annotated bibliography that you give to me in week 10, which is going to be your analysis of your 6 secondary sources and your 3 primary sources that you'll be using in that final project, is worth 15% of your grade and is due in week 10. Week 4 is your final project presentation, or final project proposal. I'm sorry, proposal, what you want to do for that final project. The Dropbox for it's already there with the questions you need to answer on it. You can submit it to me anytime you want to, but definitely by week 4. Week 7, you are going to give me a preliminary list of sources, which will include 6 secondary sources and 3 primary sources. The structure for it is already there as well. Then between week 7 and week 10, we'll be finessing those sources and whether I think they're going to help you or not, what you can do with those, to do the actual analysis of them for your annotated bibliography, where you will also give me an introduction to your final project with your thesis, what you plan to prove, as well as a short outline. And then your final project itself, the guidelines of which you'll be reading first, because you'll be reading it before you actually do that final project proposal in week 4. So that is 20% of your grade. So 35% of your grade is based in that final project. So you need to be really on your game about that. 15% is in your final exam, which will be taken during exam week. It will be all essay because all exams are essay. It'll be building off of the information from the discussions and the critical thinking exercises. So even if you choose not to do a discussion one week, you need to keep up with our discussion of that discussion so that you have some working knowledge of the information. You will have extra credit opportunities with quizzes, with other things that I will do during the course of the semester that will allow you to build up points that can be used at the end of the course. to help bring your grade up. I find that quite often those extra credit points are good for getting people from a D to a C or from a C to a B. Um, don't lose track of the extra credit opportunities. Try to do them whenever you can. All right, late policy, 10% per day for up to 3 days. And the reason I stipulate that is because everything so far is already posted. Everything is already out there. You already know the deadlines and the assignments for all of the discussions. If you're in the asynchronous Civ 2 class, all of your CTEs are already posted. The drop boxes for everything involving the final project are already there. You know those deadlines already. That being said, I know that things happen. So if something happens and you're going to miss a deadline because of an actual valid reason, email me as soon as you can before that deadline and let me know. And I usually will not penalize you. The only exception for that is with discussions. You cannot post the top post of your discussion on Monday. I will delete it automatically. It's a 0. Don't waste my time. Don't waste yours. Those discussions are for everybody in the classroom. So if you're waiting for the last minute to post it, then you're literally insulting me and the rest of the class. Do not wait to the last day to post a discussion. I will delete it. If you have a valid reason for a discussion top post being late, let me know and I'll mitigate it. If you don't, just expect that you're losing 30% off the top or however many days late it is. Because you know ahead of time what those dates are. All discussions are due on Thursday. The top post is due on Thursday. Critical thinking exercises will all be due on Saturday so that if you choose to do both the discussion and the CTE, you've got time. I actually set that up intentionally. So, all right. But again, if you have a valid reason for something, accident, illness, family problems, emergency, email me as soon as you know. That's just a nature of respect for me and for the rest of the class. If you wait until a week after something was due, it's not going to count. I'm not going to take it. So do it as soon as you know. Assessment tools again, 6 discussions out of 13, 4 critical thinking exercises out of 9. I think I've been over all this, your annotated bibliography, your final project, your final exam, those are all the things. APA citation is required for everything, and I sent in the initial introductory email how and when to cite. It is also linked in your content page under most important stuff. Citation's mandatory. You must cite at the end of every sentence in the body of your work where you use information from any of your sources, whether it's factual information from the textbook, whether it's ideas from Harari, Frankopan, or Diamond, whether it's an example or an idea from whatever your multimedia is, you must cite it at the end of that sentence. And citation is always in the form internally of author, date, page number. Page number is required. Do not give me Harari 2015. Harari is posted and copied from the actual book, so the page numbers are there. The same with Frankopan, the same with Diamond, and depending on the textbook you use, the same with the textbooks. The only exceptions are if you're actually using the website instead of downloading Burger or Cordas. Otherwise, you should have a page number, and that page number has to be there. And the reason I make this mandatory is because a lot of people think they can use AI. They can't. AI is a big flat 0. It shows up in Turnitin, and everything gets run through Turnitin. And just throw a random citation in there and that I'll buy it. No. I check every one of your citations. So the page number has to be there. And I mean that literally. I check every one. I will go to every one of those pages and make sure that what you say is there is there. And if it's not, that's academic dishonesty. That's lying to me. That comes up in just a minute when we talk about examples of academic dishonesty. So don't do it. Don't use Super Summary. Don't use any website that's going to give you the short version of whatever Harari, Frankopan, Diamond, or whomever says. Read it. Read it yourself. All right. This is the outline of the course. And it matches if you go to the content page. It's going to match directly if you are using Strayer and Nelson. It's literally political changes, economic changes. These are all the titles of those chapters. So everything's there. The fourth column over here is the assignments, what's mandatorily due each week, discussion 1 and 2, in weeks 1 and 2, critical thinking exercise in week 3, and then in bold print down here, the big things for the final project. The proposal is due in week 4. Week 7 is the preliminary list of sources. Midterm grade is due for me, due February 24th, with your last day to drop being February 28th. And this is important because that W day is the last day you can drop. February 28th is the last day that you can drop, and it's not going to count against your GPA. Between February 29th and April the 28th, which is the last literal day to drop the course at all, if you drop, you're going to end up with a WF, which means that WF counts against your GPA, and you don't want that. Spring break for the spring, the 2nd through the 9th of March. And then the annotated bibliography due in week 10, and then your final project due in week 14. Last day of class again, last day of drop, April 28th, and then final exams are April 30th through May the 6th. Your last opportunity to take our exam, you can pick and choose when you want to. It is due by midnight May the 5th, which means you need to start it by 9 o'clock on May the 5th, because you got 3 hours to take it. I don't encourage you to wait to the last minute, because if I grade it and you're sitting on a 79, that's not going to give us any time to do something to bump your grade up. So you want to try to take it as early in the exam week as you can. Final grades are due by 9 a.m. May the 9th. Like I said, be in touch with me through that time period in case we need to do something to see if we can get your grade up. These are your important dates, the important things you need to know, course outlines. And then I'm going to give you through here. This is we go into the School of Liberal Arts. Again, a lot of this is repeated earlier. The IEE goals are very much related to those core impacts again: information technology, critical thinking, communicating in written oral form. Academic integrity in the use of Turnitin. As I said before, I check everything through Turnitin, including your discussions and your peer responses in the discussions. All of that's going to be loaded there. If there is any use of AI, it's going to show me. Now, if you use Grammarly, or if you use a program to help you write or to make your writing stronger, that actually is a separate AI score in Turnitin. And I'll talk to you about it if I see that. But for the most part, that's a different. They actually have that set up differently. But if you just use straight AI, you just copy and paste something out of AI into your discussion or your critical thinking or your final project or whatever, it's going to show me that. And it's going to be a 0, because I have 0 tolerance for plagiarism or for the use of AI in anything you submit to me. There you go. It says it right there. I have a 0 tolerance toward plagiarism and the use of AI. Your work must be your own work. And that also means no collaboration. I don't want you and 2 or 3 of your closest friends deciding to work together on these things. When things are alike, it shows me that too. So we're not going to be doing that. So some examples of when APA format is mandatory. If you're using a direct quote, you must not only be cited at the end of it in APA form, but you must also have quotation marks around it, because that lets me know you are exactly using somebody else's work. If you paraphrase anybody's ideas or information, whether it's examples historically from the textbook, whether it's ideas or examples from Frankopan or Harari or Diamond, anybody, your multimedia source, you must have a citation at the end of that sentence. Anything that's not common knowledge must be cited, which means, again, it's part of why I keep talking about the textbook. If you're using an example from the textbook, it needs to be cited, because it's not common knowledge. If you can turn to your roommate or to your friend or to your significant other and ask them if they know who the Denisovans were, and they don't, then that's not common knowledge. So it's got to be cited. Examples of plagiarism, again, directly quoting another's work without appropriate citation and or quotation marks. Overusing quotations, just using a series of quotations from somebody else, even if you cite them. If you're not putting your own connections in there between those ideas, that's plagiarism. That's not your work, that's somebody else's. Paraphrasing somebody else's words without appropriate citation, using somebody else's information. Got to have citation. Submitting assignments and other work that are not your own, either by using AI, either by collaboration with somebody else, by buying them off of Course Hero or some other website. That's fraud, academic dishonesty. It's down here as well. Citing primary and secondary sources incorrectly, as in not using the correct page number or just randomly throwing a page number in thinking that I won't check it. Don't do that. That's unwise. That's fraud. And again, examples of academic dishonesty. Knowingly performing, attempting to perform, assisting another in performing, or failing to report an act of academic dishonesty. Failing to report. Yeah, that's academic dishonesty. That's a 0. That'll get you straight to the academic integrity or academic enhancement. No, academic enhancement, even though I think they're where it goes. But it's one of the there's actually a specific organization in the university designed to handle accusations of plagiarism and or academic dishonesty. Directly quoting or paraphrasing another works without appropriate citation and punctuation. Overusing quotations. Again, a lot of this is repetitive from above. Using unauthorized materials during an exam. For your exam, you will be allowed to use whichever textbook you have chosen. You'll be able to use any of the supplemental secondary sources I've provided with you. You'll be able to use your notes, but that's it. And if you're using your notes, I need to see those notes before you take the exam. Submitting a single assignment for multiple courses, we call this recycling. You're not allowed to do that. Now, if you ask me, if you came up with an idea for something in a previous class, or if you're trying to do something in another class that seems kind of parallel to this, talk to me about it. Usually I'm okay with you using that if you're doing similar research, as long as at least 50% of what you're presenting to me is for this class and is unique. So, but ask me first. Don't just do it. Ask me first. Submitting assignments as one's own when they are not. And this again is AI of any kind, using work from a peer family member, from a paid writer such as Course Hero, whoever, anything that's not your own. Misrepresenting or falsifying material, or misrepresenting circumstances such as illness. All of those are things that are considered to be academic dishonesty and will get you a 0 on the assignment. And then the second time, it will get you kicked up to the academic integrity people. All right, student resources. This is college-wide material. There's some really good places you can go if you need help. The AEC is one of them. CAPS is another one. Dean of Students. GGC Care Pantry. Anything that you are having problems with, look here first and see if there's somebody that can help you. Disability services. The library, which I love dearly, has so many possible resources for you, including a place to go do computer stuff. Notice again, yet another statement about academic integrity, because this is from Georgia Gwinnett itself. And academic respect. You're going to encounter people with different ideas here. This is a big part of what academic discourse is about. It's about people having different ideas and opinions and being able to discuss them civilly, because they have factual support for the basis of their ideas. That's what this is about. That's a big part of what critical thinking is. It's about understanding and respecting that not everybody thinks the same way you do, and that as long as they have the ability to support their ideas with factual information, even if it's not the same information or the same interpretation that you have, they have a right to that. So this is academic respect, and this is a big part of what we will be doing. ADA, a very good organization attendance policy, again, because this is again, this syllabus is for an asynchronous course. The only way I have to track your attendance is through participation online. If it is a synchronous course, again, you must still participate online. That's why I require that you submit those first 2 discussions. That's why they're mandatory. That's how I'm taking attendance. Complaints and grade appeals. If you have a problem with that, this is how you're going to go about appealing it. And then the EEOC and affirmative action, because we have Title IX, because we take federal funds. We have a Title IX program. This is where you go if you have problems. The Grizzly Care Team, another really good institutional body. Safety and security, I wholeheartedly recommend that if you have not already, download the Rave Alert text notification. It's really good to let you know if something happens. And about once a semester, we seem to be having something happening that causes the university itself to go into lockdown. So I encourage you to have that accessible and downloadable. If you haven't watched this active shooter video, I also recommend that. It's disturbing, but by the same token, we seem to be having more and more things going on. Look at what happened New Year's Eve in New Orleans and Vegas, Charlottesville. Um, Again, we keep hoping to have a civil society, but things keep happening. It's good to constantly be aware of what's going on around you, especially if you're in a metropolitan area. Sexual misconduct, again, Title IX, who to get in touch with if you have problems, things to do. All right, so this is your syllabus. If you have questions, you can either, if you are in a synchronous class, ask me in class. If it is asynchronous, email me, and I will address it the best way that I can. All right, I'm going to check this to make sure that we have audio for this one. I look forward to seeing you all in class.